3 days after I won the biggest case of my career, I was trending on Twitter for all the wrong reasons. My name, my face, and fabricated evidence suggesting I was as corrupt as the criminals I defended were spreading across every news outlet in the country. But the worst part wasn't the media storm, it was the phone call that came at 3 a.m. from a voice I hadn't heard in 12 years. The morning after receiving that anonymous threat, my world exploded. I woke up to 17 missed calls and 43 text messages. The first thing I saw when I opened my phone was a news alert. Shadow lawyer, Victoria Sterling's secret payments exposed in cybervault hack. Every major news network was running the story. The fabricated documents showing me receiving payments from cybervault had been leaked to the press along with the client files. The headlines were devastating. Did Manhattan's top attorney take bribes? The lawyer who sold justice. Sterling's tarnished reputation. CNN was already running a segment with legal experts debating whether I should be disbarred. Fox News had a panel discussing corruption in the legal system. My face was on every screen, branded as potentially corrupt. I tried calling my publicist, but she'd already been fielding calls since 5 a.m. Victoria, this is bad. Really bad. The New York Bar Association has already launched a preliminary investigation. 3 of your current clients have called asking if they should find new representation. My hands shook as I poured coffee, watching the morning shows dissect my career. They were showing the fake documents on screen, analyzing them like they were real. The forgeries were sophisticated. They included my digital signature, proper law firm letterhead, and dates that corresponded to actual meetings I'd had with Marcus Chen. But I couldn't focus on the media circus. All I could think about was that anonymous message. You'll do exactly what I say. That afternoon, despite the media feeding frenzy, I had to maintain appearances. I had a new client consultation scheduled, a pharmaceutical executive named Dr. Richard Blackwood facing wrongful death charges after his company's pain medication allegedly caused 200 overdose deaths. Dr. Blackwood arrived precisely on time, wearing a $5,000 suit and carrying a briefcase that probably cost more than most people's cars. He was in his late 50s, with silver hair and the kind of confident demeanor that came from decades of wealth and power. "Ms. Sterling," he said, settling into the chair across from my desk, "I assume you've seen the news. Are you still capable of providing competent representation?" His directness caught me off guard. Most clients would have canceled after the morning's revelations. "Dr. Blackwood, I can assure you that the documents circulating in the media are fabricated. My representation of you will be uncompromised." He smiled, not a warm smile, but the calculating expression of someone used to getting what they wanted. "I'm not concerned about your alleged corruption, Ms. Sterling. In fact, it might be beneficial. A lawyer with secrets is a lawyer with motivation." Something about his tone made my skin crawl, but the retainer he placed on my desk was for $750,000. With my reputation under attack, I couldn't afford to turn away paying clients. "The prosecution claims our pain medication, Oxyflow, was deliberately designed to be addictive," Dr. Blackwood continued. "They're saying we knew it would kill people and marketed it anyway. They want to paint me as some kind of monster who profited from addiction." I reviewed the case files he provided. The evidence against him was substantial. Internal company emails discussing addiction potential, marketing strategies targeting vulnerable populations, and financial records showing bonuses tied to prescription volumes. "This is going to be a difficult case," I said. "The public sentiment around pharmaceutical executives is challenging right now. That's why I need the best. And despite your current troubles, you're still the best." That evening, I tried to decompress in my penthouse, but the city lights that usually calmed me felt oppressive. Every news ticker, every social media notification, every buzzing phone felt like an attack. I poured myself a glass of wine and tried to think clearly about my situation. Someone had not only hacked CyberVault but had specifically targeted me. They'd fabricated evidence, leaked it at the exact moment of my triumph, and were now making demands. But what did they want? The anonymous message had promised more instructions, but I'd heard nothing since the leak. That's when I remembered something I'd tried to forget for 12 years. During my second year of law school, I'd done something that could destroy my career if it ever came to light. It was a moment of desperation, a choice I'd made when I was broke, scared, and willing to do anything to survive. I'd helped a fellow student, David Kim, cheat on the bar exam. Not just any student, David was the son of a federal judge. He was brilliant but struggled with test anxiety. His family's reputation, his father's position, everything depended on him passing the bar. David had paid me $10,000 to take the exam for him using a fake ID. It was sophisticated, we looked similar enough, and I'd practiced mimicking his signature for weeks. I took the exam, passed with flying colors, and David became a lawyer based on fraud. The guilt had eaten at me for years, but I'd convinced myself it was just one mistake. David had gone on to become a successful prosecutor. He'd built a legitimate career. No one had been hurt. But if someone knew about this, if they had evidence... My phone rang, jolting me from my thoughts. Unknown number. Hello, Victoria. The voice was electronically distorted, like something from a thriller movie. I trust you've been enjoying the media attention. What do you want? I tried to keep my voice steady. I want you to understand that I'm serious. The Cyber Vault documents were just a taste. I have much more interesting information about you. Those documents are fake, and anyone with basic forensic training could prove it. The voice laughed, a cold, mechanical sound. Oh, I know they're fake. But the next batch won't be. The next batch will be very, very real. My blood turned to ice. They knew about the bar exam. Still think you're in control, Victoria? Because I have photos, financial records, even security footage from the testing center. 12 years ago, you committed fraud to help Judge Kim's precious son become a lawyer. How do you think that would play in the current media climate? I sank into my couch, phone pressed to my ear, realizing my entire life was about to collapse. What do you want from me? For now, keep defending your clients. Keep winning your cases. But when I need a favor, and I will need a favor, you'll do exactly what I ask. No questions. And if I refuse? Then Judge Kim loses his position, David Kim goes to prison for fraud, and Victoria Sterling becomes the lawyer who sold bar exam results to the highest bidder. Your choice. The line went dead. The next morning, I tried to focus on Dr. Blackwood's case while my world crumbled around me. The pharmaceutical executive had provided thousands of pages of documents, and I needed to find a defense strategy that could overcome the mountain of evidence against him. As I reviewed internal company emails, I noticed something interesting. The most damaging communications, the ones showing deliberate deception about Oxyflow's addictive properties, all came from the same IP address block. It was subtle, but someone with cybersecurity training would notice the pattern. I called Jake Morrison, the forensic analyst who'd helped me with the Cyber Vault case. Jake, I need you to look at something. Discreetly. He arrived at my office within an hour, and I showed him the pharmaceutical company's digital communications. These emails showing deliberate deception about addiction risks, they're all from the same server cluster. Is it possible they were created after the fact? Jake spent 2 hours analyzing the metadata. What he found was disturbing. Victoria, these emails were created 6 months ago, but they're dated from 3 years ago. Someone with administrative access to the pharmaceutical company's servers planted these messages to build a case against Dr. Blackwood. It was the same pattern as the Cyber Vault hack. Someone was manipulating digital evidence to frame my clients. But why? I asked. What's the connection between a tech CEO and a pharmaceutical executive? Maybe it's not about them, Jake said quietly. Maybe it's about you. That afternoon, I met with Dr. Blackwood to update him on our findings. When I explained that the most damaging evidence against him appeared to be fabricated, his reaction was strange. Instead of relief, he seemed almost disappointed. Are you certain about this, Ms. Sterling? The metadata doesn't lie. Someone planted those emails in your company's system. Dr. Blackwood was quiet for a long moment, staring out the window of my office. There's something I need to tell you, he finally said. I didn't choose you randomly as my attorney. I was recommended. Recommended by whom? Someone contacted me 3 weeks ago. Said they could guarantee I'd be acquitted if I hired you. Said you had special methods for making evidence disappear. The room felt like it was spinning. Who contacted you? I never met them in person. All communication was through encrypted messages. They knew details about my case that hadn't been made public. They said you were part of a network, lawyers who could fix problems for the right price. I realized I was being set up again. Someone had orchestrated Dr. Blackwood's case, planted evidence against him, and then arranged for him to hire me. But why? Dr. Blackwood, I need to see those messages. He handed me his phone, showing a series of encrypted communications. The sender was identified only as Legal Solutions, but as I read the messages, I recognized the writing style. It was the same person who'd been threatening me. The final message was sent just yesterday. Ms. Sterling will ensure your acquittal. She understands the consequences of failure. That evening, I couldn't take it anymore. I sent a message to the anonymous number that had been tormenting me. I know you're watching. I know you're orchestrating this. What's your endgame? The response came within minutes. Meet me at the Metropolitan Museum, Egyptian Wing, tomorrow at 8 p.m. Come alone, or Judge Kim reads about his son's fraud in tomorrow's Washington Post. I spent the night pacing my penthouse, trying to figure out who could have this much access to sensitive information. They'd hacked Cyber Vault, planted evidence in a pharmaceutical company's servers, and somehow knew about my deepest secret from law school. The next evening, I arrived at the Met precisely at 8 p.m. The Egyptian Wing was nearly empty, just a few tourists admiring ancient artifacts under dim lighting. I waited by the Temple of Dender, watching every person who entered. At 8:15, my phone buzzed with a text. Turn around. Standing behind me was a woman I recognized but hadn't seen in years. She was tall, elegant, with sharp features and calculating eyes. It was Amanda Cross, my former classmate from law school, and the person who'd introduced me to David Kim 12 years ago. "Hello, Victoria. You look surprised." "Amanda? You're behind all this." She smiled, the same predatory expression I remembered from law school debates. I prefer to think of myself as a problem solver. I help people navigate complex situations. By blackmailing lawyers and framing innocent people? Innocent. She laughed. Marcus Chin was embezzling money through shell companies. Dr. Blackwood knew exactly what his medication would do to people. I don't frame innocent people, Victoria. I just make sure justice has the right incentive structure. What do you want from me? Amanda walked closer, her voice dropping to a whisper. I want you to understand that you work for me now. Every case you take, every client you defend, every victory you win, it's all part of my design. You're going to help me reshape the justice system, one billionaire at a time. And if I refuse? Then David Kim goes to prison, Judge Kim loses his position, and you spend the rest of your career defending shoplifters in municipal court. Your choice. As Amanda walked away, disappearing into the museum crowd, I realized the full scope of what I was facing. This wasn't just blackmail, it was recruitment. Amanda had spent years building a network of compromised lawyers, judges, and legal professionals. She was manipulating cases, planting evidence, and controlling outcomes. And now she owned me. The walk back to my penthouse felt endless. Every step reminded me of the impossible position I was in. I could expose Amanda and destroy my career, or I could become part of her network and compromise everything I'd worked for. But there was a third option, one that terrified me more than anything else. I could fight back. That night, I sat in my office reviewing everything I knew about Amanda's operation. She'd hacked CyberVault, manipulated Dr. Blackwood's case, and somehow gained access to sealed records from law school. The scope of her network was staggering. But as I analyzed the evidence, I noticed something Amanda might have overlooked. Every digital manipulation, every planted email, every fabricated document had one thing in common. They all used the same sophisticated encryption algorithm. If I could trace that algorithm back to its source, I might be able to identify Amanda's base of operations. And if I could do that... My computer chimed with a new email. The sender was listed as a friend, but I knew it was Amanda. Victoria, I trust our meeting was enlightening. Tomorrow you'll receive your first assignment. A pharmaceutical executive needs to disappear from the headlines, and you're going to make it happen. Refuse, and the Washington Post receives a very interesting story about bar exam fraud. You have 24 hours to decide if you want to be a player or a victim. Attached to the email was a single photo, security footage from law school showing me walking into the testing center with David Kim's identification. I stared at the image, knowing it represented the end of one life and the beginning of another. I could surrender to Amanda's control and become part of her corrupt network, or I could find a way to expose her and lose everything in the process. But as I looked out at the Manhattan skyline, I realized there was something Amanda didn't know about me. Something that might give me an edge in this deadly game. I wasn't just Victoria Sterling, defense attorney. I was Victoria Sterling, survivor. And I'd spent 12 years covering up one secret while building an empire. If Amanda wanted to play games with people's lives, she'd picked the wrong opponent. Because I was about to show her what happens when you threaten someone who has nothing left to lose. The war was just beginning.